I did a news conference the other day. Some journalists came along, including a guy called Quentin Letts from the Daily Mail. Poor old Quentin. He thinks he's a journalist, bless him. And he heard a cut down, but still substantial version of what I'm going to do today. And he then says in his newspaper, he does a real cut down version of the cut down version and basically, you know, said nothing. But then he said after it, all nonsense, of course. Now, Quentin, I'd like to be a journalist, but I'm stuck with what I am. Letts has no idea whatsoever if what I'm saying is true. Why? Because he's not done 30 seconds of research, like all these other journalists, into what I'm saying. But Quentin Letts, limits of possibility. Out here, anything out here, nonsense by reflex action, no research necessary. And this is how it works all the time. Gandhi again, even if you are in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. And I am no longer in a minority of one. Nothing like it. Remember this? This is when, centuries ago, Quentin Letts and his ilk would have reported that anyone who said the earth was round was mad, because it's nonsense, of course. Because, as everyone knows that if it was not possible to be round, people would fall off the bottom, and all the rest of it that you got with the sphere earth is ridiculous. And we are now facing another version of the earth is not flat with what I'm talking about today. Mark Twain, in religion and politics, people's beliefs and convictions are in almost every case gotten at second hand, and without examination from authorities who have not themselves examined the questions at issue, but have taken them at second hand from other non-examiners whose opinions about them were not worth a brass farthing. That's where we get, everyone knows that, mate. That's where we get official history from. Summed up by Einstein. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. And on that, and on that criteria, we live in a world that is at the summit of Everest in terms of the height of ignorance. Everyone knows that, mate. Nonsense, of course. The world looks bewildering. All these different things are happening. What's going on? Why are they doing that? That's stupid. That's bureaucratic incompetence. What's happening? Why do they do that? It's ridiculous. They did it that way. It'd be much better. What's going on? And more people are saying and feeling more and more ill at ease with the world as it's changing around them. When we've got to the point of people being fined by the authorities for putting a card in their own car saying it's for sale. And when they park it in the street, they're being fined for trading in the street. When people are being fined for putting out their wheelie bin on the wrong day, we're talking about the fine detail of our lives that this has got into now. The key thing to start to understand the world we're actually looking at, as opposed to the one we think we are, is to connect the dots. There are many various and vastly different areas of our lives. Vastly different areas of politics and business and banking and all the rest of it. And left to themselves as dots, it's bewildering. I don't understand that. Why are they doing that? Why, all that stuff. But when you start to connect the dots, and that's what I've been doing for the last nearly 20 years, and to connect the dots, you have to do enormous research on the dots themselves before you can start to connect them. It's an enormous work. That's why it's very difficult for people to see what's happening, because the amount of work it needs to actually uncover it. And as you connect the dots, the picture starts to appear. You start to see that organizations and people and events that appeared to be totally unconnected are actually fundamentally connected. And you start to realize and you start to see a clearer and clearer picture of what Big Brother really is and why. You start to see the elephant in the living room. You see, the difference between those who've not looked at this stuff and those that have is the difference between seeing that's why they're doing this and people saying they're doing this, I think, because what they're telling us they're doing it for. Once you connect the dots, you start to see the white bits between the words, where the real information is. And this elephant in the living room is that there is a secret agenda going on in the shadows behind the people that appear to be in power. And this agenda, as I've been exposing, like I say, for nearly 2 decades, before anyone was talking about this stuff, that secret agenda is to create a global, centralized, fascist dictatorship, where they want to take the European Union, and are doing it at a rate of knots at this time, take that structure globally, and that's what you have in terms of the structure they want. Now, to hide the agenda and to justify its introduction, we have the movie, as I call it. This is the version of events that we are given through the mainstream media and from politicians and stuff, most of whom, the vast majority of whom, haven't got a clue what they're actually reporting. They just read autocue or take a government statement and regurgitate it and call it news and journalism. And so, if you want to centralize power in Europe, because you want that to be another layer, and I'll come to that in a minute, of this global fascist dictatorship, then that's the secret agenda. Within the movie, you say, no, it's just a tidying up exercise to make Europe more efficient. No, it's not the Constitution, it's a treaty. Even though it's exactly the same virtually as the Constitution, it's a treaty, so we don't need a referendum on it, so that people can say no. This is how it works. Secret agenda, movie provides the excuse for the agenda. This is the uniform, it seems to be all over the world, the dark suit. The dark suit. And these people are promoted, prime ministers, presidents, as being the leaders of the world, the people who are making the decisions. If anyone thinks Bush has been running America, I've got some seafront property in Switzerland you might like to look at. I've got a picture. The dark suits are the here today, gone tomorrow politicians who are the vehicles for introducing the agenda decided in the shadows, and those shadows people do not change, or at least those that control the shadow people do not change. As they say in America, those enormous numbers of people in America are now starting to understand this. They say, whoever you vote for, the government still gets in. And what they mean by that is those that control governments of any persuasion get in. In the shadows, this is where it's done. Look for the think tanks, which is a massive vehicle for this manipulation in the background. These people are cardboard cutouts. They do a job for a while. Some of them know they're doing a job in relation to the shadow people. Lots of them don't. They're just manipulated to bring in certain policies by the networks around them. I mean, have you met a lot of these people? You know, not a lot of brain cell activity in some of these politicians, right?